Hello everyone, I want to show you how I use the trail render to create a nice contrail effect for my game. Let's get into it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a contrail to this plane here, or rather I'm going to add two contrails, one on the left side and one on the right. So let's get started. So I created an empty game object here as part of my plane, and I'm going to add my contrails here. So I'm going to create an empty game object, call it left trail, and we're just going to move it into position right behind the wing here. Somewhere here, we're going to add a trail render. And what a trail render basically does is it draws a trail after a moving object. So if I move around this object here, we can see the trail render drawing a trail. So technically, if I start playing the game, I should already start seeing something here. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's just run the game. Okay, so I don't see anything yet, but if I move around, I see it's drawing something. The problem is, though, that nothing is being drawn in the Z direction. The reason for that is because if you remember from one of my previous videos, the plane is not actually moving. It's the cylinder that's moving. So if we go ahead and look at the plane, nothing is moving here. Nothing's changing. But if we look at the cylinder, it's rotating. And that's how we simulate the plane's movement. So the first thing I have to do if I want to make this work with the plane is I have to actually make the plane fly around the cylinder. I can't rely on this little trick anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Since the movement of the plane is not the focus of the video, I will skip over this part and jump right to the part where the plane is flying around the cylinder. Okay, so I made the plane move around the cylinder and we can instantly see the trail effect. We can move around here and it's drawing a nice trail. Okay, now let's make this trail look like an actual contrail. So we're going to open up the inspector here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a material for this so that it's not just a pink line. I'm going to create just a white material here. And we're going to assign that to the material here. Okay, now that we have our material assigned, we can actually start playing around with this a little bit. So first thing I want to do is I want to make this a bit slimmer. Yeah, it's too thick. So we're going to drag this down to about this. I think that's pretty good. Then the next thing we want to do is we want to make it so that this trail doesn't stick around for so long. So if we watch the plane fly by here, you can see that the contrail is sticking around a bit too long. We're going to shorten that. So the way to do this is to adjust the time here. We're going to reduce this to, let's say, 0.5. So if we make it too short, I don't like that, so let's make it 0.5. So if we see here now, we're just going to wait for the plane to fly by. It's a lot shorter. Yeah, that's pretty good. The next thing is I want the trail to kind of fade out at the end here. So we're going to do that here with this color picker. So this top 3 is the alpha. We're going to drag this about to the middle, and we're going to reduce the alpha to 0. Now you see nothing's actually happening here, yeah? So there's something with the material I still got to do for this to work. So we're going to go back into the material. We're going to change the shader to a particle shader. The standard unlit one will work just fine. And we'll change the rendering mode to additive. And now you can see here the trail fading out at the end. If we go back into the inspector and we change the alpha to be even lower, or rather to be low at an even earlier point in time, we can see here the trail fading out at the ends there. So I think that's pretty good here. We don't need it to disappear entirely, but we just want to kind of give the impression that it is fading away. Next thing is I actually maybe want to thin it out a little more, and I want that it actually kind of gets thicker as we get closer to the camera. So what we can do is we can create another key here, and we can just pull that up. That gives it a cool little perspective look here that I like quite a lot. Now what I don't like here is that it's just the edges of it are way too hard. I want it to kind of fade out. I want it to be softer. So in order for that to work, I will need to create my own texture for the trail. So let's jump over to Krita and create our own texture. Now important is that the texture has a square size. I'm not sure if the exact size has to be powers of 2. It can't hurt to do so, but it does have to be a square, if I remember correctly. So we're going to create that, and all we're going to do here actually is we just want soft edges. So I'm just going to create a new fill layer. I'm going to make it white. And now what I want to do is I want to create a transparency mask. And with the gradient tool here, I'm just going to make sure that we are creating a gradient from the foreground color to transparency. So this option here. And we can now just, and also hide this here, hide the background. We can draw a gradient on this side here, and we can draw a gradient on that side here. And it creates a nice soft edge here. So let's go ahead and save this. We're going to export it to a PNG. Make sure that we store the alpha channel. We're going to import this as a texture. Drag that in here. In our material here, we're going to use this new texture. And it's not looking the way I expected. Here's the gradient on the left side and here on the right side, or the other way around, I'm not sure. But what we actually want is we want the gradients to be along the sides of the trail. So one way of solving this that is pretty pragmatic is just to open the PNG here, rotate it, save it, close it again, import it back into Unity. And now we can see a softer edge on the side. And this just looks pretty good. Maybe I can increase the size of the trail just a little bit here. And we're going to copy this over to the right side of the plane as well. And we got ourselves a pretty nice contrail. Now what I don't like here is you can see here this very jagged look when I do the barrel roll. And that is due to the min vertex distance. Yeah, it's creating too many vertices on this trail. So we're just going to increase that a little bit to, let's say, 1. So I actually increased it for one of the trails, I believe the right one, but not for the left. So you can actually kind of see the comparison between the two. So let's go ahead and change that for the left as well. And now we got a pretty nice and smooth contrail. So that's pretty much it. That's the contrail with the trail render. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks. See you next time.